So I'm joined to see this evening with Jean Corrie, the author of Praying with the Heart, The Little Way to Jesus. And we were actually having a conversation this evening. We weren't planning to do this interview, but the conversation hit off on the personal relationship with Christ. And we said, maybe we should just do an interview because it came up in the comments. Some people think, oh no, it's Protestant to have a personal relationship with Christ. And at the core of our Catholic prayer and in the Catechism, it's the whole essence of Catholicism is this personal relationship. And I said there's nobody better than one of the great. Well, I consider him a mentor for me in having finally taught me how to pray after so many decades. And I said, look, Jean, could maybe you take a few minutes to expand out and explain this small but kind of critical aspect of our prayer, which is the personal relationship with Christ. So I'm just going to let you speak for a while, Jean, and give us your thoughts on this. And I'm sure we could go on for hours, but we'll try and condense it as small as
Yeah,
possible.
you'll have to stop me. Yeah, thank you, Robert. Yeah, of course, this is an absolutely important central subject. And yes, it is true that some people might think, oh, this is Protestant, this is evangelical. Do you have a personal relationship with Jesus and so forth? That's not really our bread and etc. But I beg to differ, but not differ a little bit, differ radically and totally. I would say that we have it and forget about the rest. It's first and foremost Catholic, and if you want to talk about others, that's fine. Um, First and foremost, I would like to mention that it's not that alien. It's present in the Catechism of the Catholic Church for people who have doubts. If you take the first paragraph ever in the fourth part, you remember the Catechism, you have explaining the creed, explaining the sacraments, explaining the commandments, the 10 commandments, and explaining Our Father. And in the beginning of the fourth part, which is about prayer, you have this incredible statement or passage which says, we explained the creed, we explained the sacraments, we explained the commandments, but all this can only happen inside of a personal relationship with Christ. To the point that one of the Swiss bishops, he died now, when the catechism came out, said, oh, I suggest to read the catechism from the fourth part first,
backwards,
which is the relationship with Jesus, and then read the other parts. Because how can you really taste the dogmas? How can you really enter in liturgy? And how can you really live the commandments if you don't have the grace of God, if you don't have the Holy Spirit, if you don't have the personal relationship with Christ? So I recommend people reading this paragraph 2558. But I think it's we know, you know, we read the story of the saints, plenty of saints, and very often you notice something we call the second conversion.
yes,
they can be very well Catholics, like say for instance Saint Ignatius of Loyola, Saint Teresa of Avila, for instance.
yeah.
They undergo a second conversion. It doesn't mean that they weren't Catholic. They were Catholic. In the case of Teresa of Avila, you have 20 years of religious life. She's not just a layperson, she's religious, consecrated, and she prays even for
Yes.
15 years. That's the puzzling thing, you know. She practices contemplative prayer for 15 years before her second conversion. And what is the second conversion? It's Christ who enters in her life. He says, now I want all your heart. And then this relationship between her and Jesus develops. And grace upon grace, she's showered and unstoppable from that moment onward. But you see how the Lord waited for 20 years. Waited for what? For her heart.
Mhm.
Her heart wasn't given totally. She was enjoying nothing sinful, I would say, maybe a little bit venial, but not nothing grave. She was enjoying talking about God. Can you believe that? It's like we can be me. She enjoys talking about God, about spiritual life to lay people. So she had gentlemen who would come, etc. But nothing sinful, all in the open. But her heart wasn't totally there.
Yeah.
She had maybe a little bit of affection for this one or that. Nothing really. This is really very decent people. Okay, and Jesus, in different moments, through a nun and directly through a vision, he talked to her and said, now I want you totally to me. And no, she was still there until finally he hit her with a very powerful grace. So uh, let us go back to the gospel.
Mhm.
What is the starting point of the gospel? Jesus talking, inviting people, inviting Peter, inviting Andrew, inviting John. They were disciples. Some of them were disciples of John the Baptist. So there is a preparation. In the case of Teresa of Avila, you have almost 40 years of Catholic life,
Yes.
but not yet second conversion, not yet personal relationship with Jesus. Uh, Teresa of Avila is called Teresa of Jesus.
Mhm.
She talks to Jesus, not only a personal relationship. I would even go further than that. The way she talks to Jesus, and she's a nun, she's a woman. It's like a Spanish woman talks to her husband.
Yes.
It is very intimate, very personal. Almost, I would say, it's like, really, is this true? Can this be true that you can have such intimacy? Hmm? Everything decent, nothing wrong, but still love, falling in love with Jesus. When you see Saint Therese of the Child Jesus, yes, it is progressive. You don't have what we would call the second conversion, like she was very far and then suddenly she came. No, it is progressive. So it doesn't have to be sudden in the life of a person. Sometimes and the way she loves Jesus, it's like you become jealous of her. You say, I would like
Yes.
to love Jesus how she loves him. I mean, it's incredible. So to say that, coming back to your question, to say that a personal relationship is not Catholic means let us go back to the gospel. Look at St. Paul. What
Mhm.
happens? Who are you when Jesus hits him? No, because he's stubborn. He's convinced that what he's doing is correct to persecute Christians because he's a true Jew. No, so he wants to do the righteous deeds, and then finally the Lord hits him, and then he says, "Who are you, Lord?" And then he says, "He loved me." St. Paul says, "No, he loved me. He died for me." So
Mm.
it's not I'm talking about in a uh, general statement. It's a personal relationship. It's not me who lives, it's Jesus who lives in me. So it's not just a personal relationship. It's a transformative relationship where Jesus, mouthful after mouthful, meal after meal of his word and his body and blood. I mean, what do you want more than receiving his body and blood? Is there anything more personal?
Mhm.
Can you define marriage in the Western theology? It's when a man and a woman decide to give themselves to each other. That's is in Western theology what makes the marriage. It's a full commitment. He gives everything, she gives everything. Now
Mm.
think about it. When you receive communion, isn't he giving everything?
Yes.
Isn't he, as he defines and presents himself in the gospel as being the groom? He says, "I'm the groom." That's very personal, very intimate. Um, I know it's new, as it was new for me many years back. It's like when I read Teresa of Avila, I said, "Is this possible to have such a personal relationship with Jesus?" But in the same time, I said, "If that was possible, then wow, I can fall in love. Finally, I found my Prince Charmant. No, finally, I found the one."
Yeah.
But it is true. And then I said, "Oh, is she is she fine in her mind, or is she a bit Teresa of Avila, no?"
Yeah.
And but she's saint and she's doctor of the church, so probably she's right. And I went for it. And you discover, why do we practice contemplative prayer? It's a heart to heart, no? It's love, it's falling in love. Why her her conversion takes time? Because there is part of her, and she says it. It's subtle, but it's there in the first chapters of the book of her life. She says, "My heart wasn't totally given." It's like, and I explain it in Solid Foundation. Now you have our heart. You have the lower part is left for humans to love a possible falling in love with a person, and the upper part is for God. No, it's all, even my human desire to love and be loved, even my human desire to love and be loved, Jesus can fill it in a decent way, in a proper way, but he can fill it. So we are all yearning to love and be loved.
Mm-hmm.
It's us humans. But the thing is that it is delayed because we give only the upper part of our heart, so to speak. We don't give the lower part, which is the warmer one. Hence the beautiful encyclical letter of Pope Benedict, talking about eros, this energy that we have to love, but it's not given to God. And the Pope says we need to give it to God so he can transform it, and we can then fall in love. In the first commandment, what does it say? You love God with half of your heart, and the other half you love your neighbor? He says, no, all your heart, all your energy. This is why Teresa of Avila, despite the fact that she's in front of the Lord every day, 2 hours at least, practicing contemplative prayer, it takes her 20 years to sort of accept the fact that he wants all my heart. And what, Jesus, what will you do with my heart?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can talk forever about this. I
I
mean,
know.
it's not just personal relationship, it's an intimate, transformative relationship. When you hear St. Paul saying, it's not me who lives, it's Jesus who lives in me. Is it just a personal relationship? That he ate you, as St. Augustine says. When you receive communion, you eat Jesus, but in fact, he eats you. So
Yeah.
you are eaten bit by bit. You are totally transformed by him. So it's not just a relationship. It's like you die. You are
Yeah.
done completely. You see. So back to what I was saying: the marriage, human marriage. They give each other. When you receive communion, is he giving you something less than everything?
Yeah.
Isn't this a form of marriage? No. What is
Yeah.
marriage? Is to give totally himself, and she gives totally herself. This is how you define marriage: is a total gift of each other. And when you receive communion, isn't it a nuptial effort from God and desire for God to love?
Yeah.
So he
Yeah.
gave everything, and he expects me to give everything. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I would say this: I would challenge people who think it's not, despite all what I said, they might still think that it's not Catholic. That give yourself, give your heart, give this capacity to love, human capacity to love, that you expect from other people to love you, your mother, your father, your husband, your wife, your daughter, your son, your friend, etc. Give this part,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, right now. Say, okay, Jesus, I give you this part. And because baptism is this, not to give myself,
Yeah.
and see what he will do.
Mm-hmm.
That's my answer, I would say.
I think the question that's coming to my mind is and we were discussing a little bit about Lumen Gentium and the universal call to holiness. Like we have all these bishops in Rome talking about this universal call to holiness, and 50 years later, we haven't put the nuts and bolts together and really giving this, because I am totally convinced, and I am totally convinced there is no other way for Catholics to move forward without this personal relationship with Christ. The word universal, do you think, I'm going to hypothetical, do you think it's possible for every Catholic listening to this video, or for everybody to have, to actually, is this where Christ is calling us to? How am I, maybe I'm putting it wrong. It's not an exception to have a personal relationship. It is the call, the universal call. Do you think this is achievable in the church for every Catholic, in the sense that if we put our will into this, but isn't it at the same time a gift? Isn't it Christ coming to us? There's kind of a. Am I explaining myself? Is
Yeah,
this
no, no, yeah,
achievable?
I think, yeah.
Because some people are going to look at the video and say, it's great what you two guys are spoken, but I don't understand. Nobody's brought me to this, to have this personal relationship with Christ. They don't know exactly how to achieve it.
Yeah. But your question is not how to achieve it. Your question is, do you think that Lumen Gentium is feasible?
Yes. Is it feasible? Is Lumen Gentium's aspiration feasible?
You're pushing me, and I need some time to explain. To answer it, I need some time. Now, you can stop me at any time if you want. The perspective of Lumen Gentium is it's a text on the church.
Yes.
The reason why this chapter is there, and there's a long story where before it was an elsewhere and then divided, split it in two, and then put it there, etc. But anyway, the text is the text we have, and it's a beautiful text. Now, the reason why we have this text here comes essentially from an ecclesiological point of view. Ecclesiology is the science, the theological science of about the church. What is the church? Who is the church? And explain, etc. So the whole document, Lumen Gentium, is about the church. Now, the church has what we call 4 notes: holy, one holy apostolic. How do we say?
Unum Sanctum
One
Catholica,
holy,
Holy Apostolic, and Catholic.
Catholic, apostolic.
Yeah.
One holy, Catholic,
Apostolic. Yeah.
So when you say this, and when you say that the church is holy, because she is Jesus' bride, as a consequence, the members have to be holy. Now you can object and say, well, we are all holy in a sense, in the all meaning of the expression, through our baptism. Yes, but there is holiness and holiness. So I think that the reason why the chapter is there is just a coherence, that we are talking about the church, and therefore everybody is supposed to be holy, because simply we are all baptized and we belong to the church, and if the church is holy, this is our destiny. This is from an ecclesiological point of view. Now, you need to be careful that this is not only an ecclesiological issue or question. It is also a spiritual theology central point. It's not moral theology, it's spiritual theology. How do we reach holiness?
Yes.
The section inside of the area inside of theology, which specializes in spiritual life, is called spiritual theology. So this is the part of theology which is in charge of taking you and me, my hand, and leading us to that fullness of love, that holiness, that fullness of love. So giving us the means, the teaching, the doctrine, the solid doctrine, and the safe journey to reach there. It's not automatic. So I'm starting to answer your question. It's not automatic. It's not because you are baptized that you will become saint. Your holiness is inside of baptism, but you have a journey. And to keep it very simple, I would say that as you find it in the gospel, it's true that the majority are Jews. They have a sort of preparation before with John the Baptist, and then Jesus comes. But the preparation goes far before John the Baptist. It's many centuries of preparation of the people of God.
Yes.
John the Baptist is the last one, but you have a long series of prophets, you have Moses and so forth, who prepare the people of God for the coming of the Messiah. Now, for us, the coming of the Messiah would be then meeting Jesus.
Yes.
So I'm taking this image and trying to apply it for us baptized. So I would say that the first stage of formation in the church is catechesis. It's around baptism. A little bit before, during, and after baptism, you have a formation. You are young or you are an adult. The Catechism of the Catholic Church is the book of our formation, the catechetical formation. This is the minimum we have. If we digested this teaching with these 4 sections, if we are really committed, fully committed, remember Teresa of Avila, then we are drawing closer to this personal relationship with Jesus. Then you enter in the following phase in formation in the church, in the history of the church. You have catechesis, then you have mystagogy, and then deeper spiritual life. So you have the masters amongst the monks throughout history, and then the spiritual masters, the mystics, and so forth, who teach us this further deepening. So to say that our life ends when we reach the last page of this, no. This is the preparation for something deeper. Does this mean that we never met Jesus before? Well, yeah, it does happen. It's not people meet Jesus, but still they have to go through this formation to accomplish it. But then you strengthen the relationship with Jesus. So does it happen automatically? No. You need formation, and then you need that second formation after that one. Mm-hmm. To say that I will jump all this, I will skip all the steps, and then I have a relationship, and then it has to happen. No, this is why I have an interesting article on the website of the School of Mary on the holiness, call for holiness. The article says, hearing Jesus call. It's also the last one of the last books that was published. I published. No, hearing Jesus call. One thing is to know that we are called, but another thing is to hear the call.
Yeah.
Teresa of Avila spends 40 years knowing that Lumen Gentium said that we are all called to holiness. She's dressed like a nun. She is a nun, sorry, I do apologize. She is a nun. She does everything correctly. She's a fervent person, by the way, mysteriously, she's a fervent person. But despite all that, it's not yet clicking with Jesus. So you see, so preparation, very long preparation, and then, now, to wrap it up, also, I would like to say, since we are talking about Teresa of Avila, that her life reflects a little bit the church of her time and of the previous centuries. Remember that Teresa of Avila is born a little bit after Luther.
Yes.
Talked about Protestantism, no?
Yes, yes.
So, for 3 centuries before Luther and before, obviously, Teresa of Avila, the church is trying to reform itself. You can read the history of the church. You can read, you'll find various councils. It's Western councils. They're not universal in the sense that they don't reach the eastern side of the church. But you have various councils who their agenda is to reform the church from capita, from the bishops, from the priests, and so forth. And it never happens. This is why you have Luther toward the end of these 3 centuries, who comes and says, okay, slams the door and does what he wants to do. Then Teresa of Avila and John of the Cross and Ignatius of Loyola before them come, and many others, John of Avila and others come. And I see, and this is not I'm not the only one who see it, that Teresa of Avila is a little bit God's response, correct response to Luther and to the state of the church, because she embodies the church itself, in the sense that the church for 3 centuries is failing to renew itself before Teresa of Avila. Teresa of Avila fails to renew herself for 20 years. So it's a little bit the same problem. We have the appearances, but from inside, it's not there yet. We are trying. She tried. She prayed and stopped and then went back again. And for 15 years, regularly, she prayed. But still, it's not working. There is something lacking. So paradoxically, God's message to Luther is Teresa of Avila, and it's her second conversion, because everything that we know about Teresa of Avila starts from that moment onward. We forget that there are 40 years before of failure, in a way, of trying and not being able. So I like to see Teresa of Avila embodying the church itself and the difficulty to renew itself for 3 centuries before her, and then finally, here is the solution. Her conversion, which is a second conversion, is a little bit God's message to the church through her. It's like, give me your heart. Give me all your heart. Give me your desire to love a human being, to fall in love. Give it to me and see what I can do. Just see, just believe in that, and just do it. decide, determination. Teresa of Avila talks about determinada determinación, no?
Yes.
Determined determination. It's like, give your heart today. Don't think about tomorrow. Just
Yeah.
today. Give your heart to him, to Jesus, and see what he can do with your heart. See, and spend some time in silence for an hour and see what he can do. But then you need to learn what comes after.
Yeah.
But now maybe to remind you of what I said, I think, yes, this commitment, and this is the key of Teresa of Avila. When you see I would say the theory of her conversion presented in the Way of Perfection. Way of
Yes.
Perfection is a simple equation. You give yourself, he gives himself. You give yourself totally, he gives himself totally. You give yourself half, it won't work.
Okay.
This is the golden thread of that book. They ask her in the beginning, her nuns, this is written for her nuns, the first reformed monastery. The nuns say, okay, now that we are enclosed, we don't have any contact with the outer world, etc. Tell us a little bit about contemplation. They want the juice. They want the connection. No, they want what happens, the relationship. What happens in the relationship? So for almost half of the book, she doesn't talk about contemplation. She talks about what? The full gift of oneself, the perfect, hence the title, Way of Perfection, the perfect way of giving myself to God, and not half-half. And I will take one example. She says, she talks about living to perfection, three virtues, no? Practicing three virtues, humility, detachment, and love. Love here is love of each other in the monastery, no? And she says, I'll give you one of her examples. She says, you can love, but sometimes you love who you prefer. You like this sister, so you want to sit with this sister and talk to her, etc., because you enjoy talking to her. But the other one who's like you can't bear, etc., you don't sit beside her, etc. While practicing to perfection charity is to come out of your own way of loving and to love I would say, almost in a spiritual, proper spiritual, perfect way. And then you go and sit with the one you don't like, and then you discover, Jesus leads you to discover beautiful things. So this is one example just to explain. But this is the catalyst of the gift, the total gift of herself. She will use a beautiful image in the first draft of The Way of Perfection, which is the manuscript of Escorial. She talks about, like, when you play chess, you do checkmate. So when you play chess, you have your own pieces, and then you have your opponent. And the main piece is the king of your opponent and your king. So you try to corner the king of your opponent. Once you corner the king and the king can't move anymore, that's the end of the game. You win. So, and she knew how to play chess when she was young, not in the monastery, of course. This is why the passage was cancelled, deleted from the first version. The last version doesn't have that passage. She said, I don't want people to believe that I support playing games in the monastery. That's Teresa of Avila for you. So she says, if you know how to set your pieces in the chess and make a check and mat, then this is what I want you to do, to set your pieces properly. And to set your pieces is to give yourself totally, using these three virtues, but to practice them into perfection. So what will happen? The king, being Jesus, falls. It's like you win Jesus. Then you obtain this communication from God, this personal relationship, the juices, if you want, this contemplation, this love from Jesus. I'm not talking about feeling the love, but you still receive the love. In faith, you receive. So that's the synthesis of the Way of Perfection. But in fact, it's the narrative between the line of her conversion. I was a nun. I wasn't giving him everything, so he wasn't capable of giving me everything, because my door was ajar, not opened. But when I understood that I needed to give myself and open my heart totally and give him everything, floods of graces. Unbelievable. Her life after a second conversion. And all this is in this equation. You give yourself totally, he gives himself totally. So it's much more than just a relationship. It's an intimate relationship, and these are the conditions to give you love. But this is, I would say, after catechesis, after foundations. If you take a fervent, committed parishioner, this is my way of putting it to answer your question, he or she is very near the second conversion and maybe crossed it already. It doesn't have to, it's not like an earthquake and thunder.
Yeah.
No, it can be very gentle, and you enter in this relationship. And this is a starting point of an entire new life. It's not the end. For people who say, this is Protestant, let me tell you something about the Protestant, the evangelicals. Their idea, respectful but incomplete, is to invite you to surrender your life to your Savior. You know that, no? Give your life to Jesus. Jesus is my Savior. Hallelujah, hallelujah. And that's it. We got it. They consider that this is the achievement, that this is where we want to go. While as Catholics, we consider that this is the starting point of a completely new journey. When you read Teresa of Avila's interior castle, you have different stages of growth and entering deeper and deeper until you find Jesus in the depth of your being. Can you escape from Jesus? Jesus is inside. So it's a journey to enter inside. So from the 4th mentions to the 7th, this is the journey. Because from the first, from 0, outside of the castle, 0, 1, 2, and 3, you are a good parishioner. 3, you are a very good Catholic, morally sound, everything. And this is what she says in Spanish. She says that love hasn't taken the person out of her mind. Sacar de razón. Razón is reason. Sacar is to extract from. So love is not yet that powerful, love, Jesus love, to take out this person out of yourself. So it's Blessed Father Mary Eugène in I Want to See God describe it very, very, very beautifully. He says this is a very perfectly ordered Catholic life. Everything is correct. Everything is perfect. You are aligned with the moral compass of the Catholic Church. You go to confession, you go to Mass, etc. Everything is perfect. But still, you have the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th mentioned, and even deeper in the 7th mentions, you have the different layers inside of the 7th. So you see, so this is what I can say. Yes, we are all called, but depending on my capacity to absorb this and to live a good Catholic life, very committed, then I'm capable of hearing the call. So technically, theoretically, I am called, but I haven't yet reached the point that where I can hear the call. So I would distinguish hearing and the fact that we are all called. This is why I say there is a preparation, like centuries of preparation of the Old Testament, plus John the Baptist, convert yourself, prepare the way for the Messiah, for the Lord, and so forth. Then here he is.
Yeah.
Come and follow me. Then I can follow him. But before that, I can't follow him because I'm not ready. I have my attachments. You see, I'm not free yet. You see. So yes, we are all called, but to hear the call is a completely different story.
Yeah. Yeah.
40 years for Teresa of Avila, for instance.
Yeah.
It can be last minute before dying. Okay, fine, but it's not the same.
Yeah. It's great when you talk about this, all these treasures, like this adventure of going deep into this relationship. What awaits us if we start going deeper. I mean, I think we could go on for hours with this, and I don't want to drag it on too long because people might find it too long. But I just wanted to thank you for giving us a taster, an aperitif on this very big topic that we could expand out and so forth. And just to recap for people, Jeanne is coming to Knock next year. With the School of Mary is coming to Knock, and we're having a conference called this Thursday at 8 p.m. I'm going to put a link below to the WhatsApp group if you want to get involved and come to Knock next year. You
It's
can.
not next year.
Oh God, it's this year. It's this year. I'm thinking it's 2024. Yeah. This
Yeah.
year.
This
This
year,
year. This year.
February, March.
My February, March, yes. And I'm so excited to be able to get you over here. And as I said to many people, we need formation in the spiritual life. We need all of this wealth, so people aren't going off to Zen and mindfulness and yoga and all of this, and they don't need to buy any Buddhas anymore. You're going to get the beautiful living tradition of the Catholic Church of Prayer. And so I just wanted to thank you, Jeanne, for doing this unexpected interview today on this personal relationship with Christ. I mean, I love listening to the way you explain it, and I love as I said to you, I love the diagrams and the practical way. You know, it was like, as I said, when I read this book, I said, finally somebody has explained praying with the heart to me that nobody's ever in my whole life been able to teach me how to do this. So. And I suppose I just wanted to thank you for that. And guys, if you have comments, questions, or comments on what we're talking about or something you didn't understand, put them in the comments below in this video, because then I can go back to Jeanne and say, look, we have this comment here. Maybe we can tease it out with 15-minute explanation on a specific topic, you know, and then we can bring you along the path of and I really want to focus this on laity. People think that Christian perfection and personal relationship with Christ and all this is for priests and nuns. No, Christ is calling us to this. Everyone, it's universal.
Yeah.
And it's just there for us to be taken. If Christ is knocking at our door, and all we just go over, open the door, hello Christ, and start that conversation, you know, and that's biblical. Christ says, I'm here at the door and knocking. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
okay. Well, thanks, Jeanne. As I said, if you have any questions, leave them below. I'll put a link to the School of Mary below. And
Yeah.
if you want to come to the School of Mary and Knock this year,
Yeah.
get
Next
involved.
month.
Yes,
Next
we're
month.
next month. We hopefully we have to send the dates off and just. But this Thursday we're going to have the first conference call to discuss the program. Who wants to get involved? So you can just click on the WhatsApp link below, and I'll link you into the conference call. And this is all being led by Jeanne. I'm just the taxi driver here. This is completely driven, but I just said. I just said it's beautiful that we have somebody that can condense it down and teach us on the Christian way of perfection and on these things. Anyway,
Thank you.
thank you, Jeanne.
Thank you very much. And
Okay, thank you.